Hey everyone, and welcome to Ink Spotlights from Comix Wellspring. This is the series where we shine the spotlight on immensely talented creators who print with us. And today we're joined by Brian Judge to talk about some of his projects going into IC3 and a little more. Brian, it's awesome to actually, I feel like we've met before, so it's actually finally really meet you this time. How are you today, dude?
I'm doing great right now. I'm honestly really excited for Indie Comics Expo 2025. Going to be a fun time, and honestly, I've been enjoyed working with Comix Wellspring on some personal projects. So
Oh, Brad, tell us all about your projects, speaking of which.
yeah, so I have two things. I have my personal projects, and I also run a group called Xomik Buk. You may have actually heard Maddie Morps, who was previously on the show, may have mentioned that probably. But in short, Xomik Buk is an indie comic collective. We formed during lockdown, like a lot of different artists. Sort of took to social media. We started making our own comic anthologies together. Nice cat.
Every episode, he was asleep until right now, of course.
That's all good. My girlfriend has a cat, and she likes to sit with me when I work, whenever I work at home. So,
Yeah,
oh,
you get used to adjusting around them and keeping them on your lap, right? Yeah.
actually, she just likes to sit right next to me on the bed and just like
Lucky.
chill at work. I work at a call center, and she just like, okay, I'm just gonna sleep for like 8 hours while I talk to people. So,
Dude, that's you guys need to take some lessons from their cat. I swear, that's what needs to happen. but go on, my bad.
oh yeah. So Xomik Buk, it's an indie comic collective. We just like making interesting books. We're a little more out there than sort of your typical group because we like to make like just things that we think are funny. We made our own condom, our own bottle openers. We have like a
That's
few
right. I do
copies.
remember you then. That's what I remember. Yeah, the condom thing. That was so cool. Yes. So sorry, but yeah, that just clicked for me so much.
Yeah, no, that's our like little like claim to fame is yeah, we have our own condoms because it turns out if you look up condom printing online, there's some really cheap services. So who needs a business card when you can hand out a condom, which is
That's
always a little
sick.
bit awkward when then a kid comes around to your table, but it's all good.
Explaining that type of balloon. It's not what you think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this for your dad. Honestly, that's the one I love having because then people will come up and then the parents will say the funniest things. Like I've had people say, "Oh, I needed this tonight," where it's like, "Man, I don't need to know that. I really don't need to know that." Um, but yeah, we that's sort of like what Zomic Book is. We're just an anarchic little mess. We had our third issue, Zomic Book 3. Again, we're an indie comic anthology platform where we're just about giving people an opportunity where they can sort of have their voice heard and say, yeah, here's like a publication where I can actually submit stuff to, as well as sort of just like growing with like a tight knit group of friends. We all love chatting with each other. We have our own Discord where we talk. We meet up in person, and it's really been a great thing to kind of blossom within the last few years of my life just seeing this like weird kind of community kind of come up. So that's sort of like that side. The other side is I also just like to make comics. That makes sense since I run a little group. And I have my own little series that I just post on Instagram. Sometimes I'll collect it and put it out as a book. Clock Night is the newest one that I'm working at that will be printed by Comix Wellspring.
Nice.
So yeah, hopefully I'll have that for the next convention.
Oh, dude, you do so much and you're so integrated with the community. Like, where did all this like drive and passion and desire to work with comics and like kind of elevate others come from as well?
Yeah, really simple answer. I don't really feel like that there was that opportunity for me as much, and I always kind of wonder. We live in a world where you can communicate with any single human being at any moment in any part of the world. You know, we just have this amazing ability to communicate, whether it's through social media or whatever. I don't really understand. Why don't we reach out to others more, and why don't we actually say what we actually think and feel? And why not try to be somebody who fosters a positive relationship? During lockdown, I was on my phone a lot more and started to post my own art. And I saw a lot of other artists that I really respected that I thought were really talented. So I reached out to them. I said, hey, I really love your stuff. And I saved a little bit of money at my job working at the grocery store. And I said, hey, I'm going to make my own book. Whoever wants to submit, to me. And that's how it all kind of started. And I mean, I don't know. I think that we live in a world where sometimes we like to go and imagine people as these like untouchable like monoliths that like oh, this is a completely separate world for me. And what I'm kind of found is that if you just like reach out to someone, most people are down to earth. Most people want to talk about themselves. Most people want to get involved with something. I'm working on a Star Trek zine, and there's a graphic designer who works at NASA. I saw him once when I was in college for a presentation. He worked on the show Enterprise,
Oh,
and I sent
cool.
him a message saying, "Hey, I'm making the zine. I don't know if you remember me." And he said, "Oh yeah, I kind of do. Yeah, I'll do something like that." So now I get to say on this little like dumb side project, I have worked with a guy from NASA.
That's
So that's
sick.
yeah. No, I think I love just being able to reach out to people. I love I don't know. I like positivity and I like friendship. It's corny, but it's true. You know?
No, I feel you completely, dude. I mean, like when we started, coming up with this show idea and like everything about it from, the live drawing to, spotlights to inspired ink to just all these things that we do with Comics Wellspring. When I was coming up with all this, it was like, well, what would help me as a creator? Like what would benefit me if I like got to go to this company and I was like, how would this shock me and how would this elevate me? And so that's what it all came from was like, I just want to help people because I want to make comics. Apollo started with anthologies as well, and we had so much success with those anthologies. And when you kind of realize you're publishing people for the first time, it kind of hits you really odd. I literally just had this moment with my girlfriend. She just actually put her first story in the book that Apollo released
Oh,
yesterday.
congrats.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's super rad. And she's like, getting emotional and she's so happy and it's all this stuff. And it kind of trips you out whenever those moments happen. You're like, I can't like that was you a few years ago when your first book came out and was published and in
Yeah.
print and in your hands, and it's just a whole thing. And so it's like a magical moment that it's really difficult for creators to get out there and do that. So like being one to help supply it, an impossibility that it seems like, it's the coolest feeling in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really at the point with like other groups because this is all just something I do for fun. A lot of
Mhm.
these projects come out of my own pocket, like only recently now that I don't live with my parents anymore and I have my own place and I have no car insurance and this and that, so I don't have as much disposable income as I did when
Mhm.
I was like 20 during
Vibes.
lockdown, working at a crappy job at the grocery store. So now we're like as a group, we're trying to figure out better models, but like, yeah, I'm more than happy to be the guy who drops down like, okay, here's some money, let's go make something cool. I mean, like I think there's so many talented people out there, and I don't know, I love just being able to sort of go up to someone and say, you're cool, let's go make something together, and then not really be like, we're just doing this for fun. We're just making things that we think that we'd enjoy. We don't have to necessarily worry. What I always kind of tell myself is, oh, if I do this as a hobby, I don't have to worry about financials. It's like,
Mhm.
nah, I'm
Mhm.
still losing a shit ton of money on this, but
Vibes.
it's what I say to myself to make myself feel better. But yeah,
Yeah, it's an investment. I mean, from conning and tabling and hotels, food, printing, paying artists, like getting supplies, and making your own zines. We're gonna put together our own like printer zine, and so we're just like, all right, let's look up how much ink is, so that we know at least we're investing in ink and paper, and then just going from there. There's a lot to take in mind from just like, oh, I got to draw this and I got to put this together. There's so many financial aspects that's what makes comics kind of difficult sometimes. And I know you guys do some crowdfunding too. You guys use crowdfunder. Any sort of like reason you guys use that platform versus like Kickstarter or something else?
yeah. So the reality is that as a group, crowdfunder was something we found that was really more in mind for comics and indie comic kind of creators. Whereas we have used actually Indiegogo. We tried looking to Kickstarter, but for us, we're not asking for like an insane amount of money. I think that the last project we asked for like 2,000. Like that was it just to cover production.
Hmm.
And what we found is that crowdfunder actually really supported us. They actually promoted us on their Instagram.
Oh,
Crowdfunder
cool.
went out of their way to find like stuff for us, and it was really positive. Whereas Kickstarter, I'm not trying to like belittle anything,
Yeah, I
but
know.
like clearly for like a tier up. Whereas we're all just like people doing this. Like I don't have a lot of money that I can put into projects like this as I used to. So crowdfunder was like, oh, here's a place where we can all sort of have a little bit more of an opportunity since it's a little bit lower scale that a guy like me, because I've never been like the prodigy artist or anything like that. I don't really want to. It's not really like my thing. But unless you're someone who's like the absolute best of the best, it can be tough, like using Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Or last times were failures. I'll flat out say that. Whereas crowdfunder, it felt like much more enabling for like a smaller creator and much more helpful and supportive. So
Oh, cool. I mean, that's great information to know because I mean, creators are always debating, do I do crowdfunder, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, Zoop, like all these platforms that you're trying to get attention for. And then some people are even switching out of crowdfunding completely and just putting pre-orders on their website. So there's so many avenues to go. And I don't feel like there's a wrong answer. I feel like
yeah,
whatever works best for you as a creator, whatever's, most accessible for you, wherever you start to find your audience, I mean, just stick with that, and the longer you stick with whatever platform, that's where you're going to make traction. But like if you're bouncing around from platform to platform, from, crowdfunding project to crowdfunding project, you're not going to have much success on any of them because you're kind of just like dipping your toes and undecisive and you're not building an audience. And I feel like that's exactly what you guys have done. So with your group that you have created, is there a way for people to join your group? How do people get integrated? Like, is it open? Is it kind of contained with just a few people? How does that operate?
Yeah, so we're not really professional like most other kind of groups in that sphere. We really operate on like a thing of like friendship, where we want to invite people who we think are going to sort of like gel with us as a group. We don't really have like a formal application process. To be honest, if somebody wants to join, they can just go ahead and ask. You do have to be a comic artist. You do have to be over a certain age. Like basic stuff that we had to learn over the years. Because again, I was starting this when I was like an idiot, like 20-year-old, being like, "I'll invite random strangers on the
Yeah,
internet."
it gets
And
wild. I've discovered that myself too. Don't worry.
I mean, hey, thankfully in my community, I would say that we've only ever had to kick out like two people. Like we've had like a very very good track record with like if we invite random strangers online, usually we invite people that we personally kind of connect with or think we'd be friends with. That's how we sort of get in. So there's not necessarily a formal application. If you just reach out to me through Instagram, I'll consider you. I will throw your name in the bucket, saying, "Hey, you're someone who wants to join." But really, what we're looking for is just people who sort of on a specific like scale where you're an artist who is looking for sort of a community that you actually want to be a part of, and not just like a community that's just we just make books, this and that. Like no, like an actual community of sort of friends that like, are you someone that I want to run into at a convention? Are you someone that I want to talk to? I mean, I'll be honest. Prior to this, I've been talking with just on voice chat with a guy from Scotland, a guy from New York. We just are like really tight knit, and we talk almost every day. So that's kind of the community that I run. So
I love that. And I mean, finding your community is the best thing you can do as a creator. It's hard to do this solo, and so having a group of people that are doing their own projects and like working on things, it's very motivating. It's encouraging. Like especially when you hit those slumps and you're just like, why am I doing this? Like maybe I should just stop. Should I just give up? Like it's overwhelming. Work is draining me. Life is draining me. Like should I take a break? You start to question so much as a creator because we're all just so in our heads. But when you bounce to your community and just like express anything, and it's happened in I run Apollo City Comics, and it happens in our chat often where creators just frustrated and they just need to get something out, and then you have an outpour of just positivity and relatability in those situations. And I think that's what carries us on the most, and that's what I love about these shows and these conversations is that we all hear about the struggles and like the rewards of making comics, but all of us need to kind of repeatedly hear it because we all get in our own heads. So that community is so important for success. I love that, man. I love like what you've engineered, what you're putting together, what you've done, and how you're just trying to support just comics in general and comics being made. Do you have any upcoming like releases this year or other tabling events you kind of want to talk about too, real fast?
yeah, so we have a few books that we're working on as a group. I have a few personal projects. I mentioned earlier I'm putting together a Star Trek zine. That's like semi related to the Xomik Book group, but that's really more just like a throwback, like not necessarily comics, but like real zine, where it's going to be printed on printer paper, just articles about Star Trek, some real nerdy crap that I'm
Cool.
into. I'm working on a book. I did a series online recently called Clock Knight, and it's about a little knight who goes on adventures. You can find it all for free online on my Instagram, but I'm also making a print release. Hopefully, that'll be done for Indie Comics Expo. As a group, Xomik Book, we just released our third issue of our anthology through Crowdfunder. It was a very big success, and then because of that, we were able to make, like I said before, bottle openers. We're always coming up with new stuff. We're currently in the process of a book called All Wizard Comics, where it'll be all about wizards.
That's cool.
So we're just always kind of making something new. We're always doing, because that's how I operate. I just like nonstop. I just think like, oh, it'd be cool if like this person did this, and like start like assembling like little like mini teams in my head for editorial and start doing that. So we have stuff. Upcoming conventions, Indie Comics Expo. You'll be able to see me, Maddie, as well as Graham Miller. We're kind of like the Xomik crew. I think there might actually be some other people in our little community who might be tabling there. But a few of us are going to be at BIX, Brooklyn Indie Comics Expo. Or
Same.
not that. Oh,
Hype
awesome!
for
Yeah,
that. Yeah, hype for that.
yeah.
Cool.
I don't know if I'll be able to make it to that because I live in North Carolina, but I'm going to try my best. We're also going to be at Heroes Con this year, which is a show in Charlotte, North Carolina,
Mhm.
close to where I live. So yeah,
Rad. I might be at Heroes too. I'm not too sure. I might, maybe I just might pop in, but maybe I'll squeeze onto a table as well. But dude, that's rad. It sounds like we'll be seeing each other often throughout the year. I'm hyped to hear about all these projects that you have going on and that what you've done. It's such a positive thing in like just indie comics realm is cultivating communities. So congrats on that. Congrats on everything you've been doing. And I can't wait to hang in a few weeks. So we'll talk soon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me.
Of course. Thanks for stepping in the spotlight today, Brian.